Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we'll be taking a look at and discussing the results of the poll that asked you, what did you think of the 4th episode of Skeleton Crew? I'll also then be reading and responding to a few of the comments left on the poll. And so, to get right to it, let's take a look at those results, where we'll see that 14% of people said this episode was good and or they enjoyed it. 17% then said it was okay and or they enjoyed it for the most part. There was then 3% who said it was a bad episode and that they didn't like it. And then a final 65%, roughly 2/3 of the vote, went to I'm not watching the show. And then when we remove the 65% not watching to just see what the people who watched the show thought about it, and that is in no way to discredit the 65%, which is obviously the majority of people here. But we then have 41% who said they thought it was a good episode or they enjoyed it. 51% then said it was okay or they enjoyed it for the most part. And that left about 8% of people who said this was a bad episode or they didn't really enjoy it. And now going back to the 65% who didn't watch this episode, that number has remained pretty consistent. I think last week or the last episode it was 63%. And then the two before that, the first two episodes, it was 66%. So it's just hovering around that 2/3 of Star Wars fans who watch my channel anyway. And as I always say, if you are getting this poll in your feed, you've probably seen my videos before. You probably watch or have watched other Star Wars channels, meaning you're probably a Star Wars fan, right? And so it seems consistently that 2/3 of people are just not going to watch this show, despite the fact that, yeah, it has, looking at these results from the people watching it, it has received pretty positive reviews. It has been enjoyed by the people watching it, though I can understand the skepticism from people who are not watching it and don't believe that Disney and Lucasfilm have finally put out a pretty good Star Wars show. Or, of course, maybe they're not watching it for other reasons. Maybe they are not subscribed to Disney Plus and they don't want to because they don't want to pay Disney any money. Whatever the case may be, again, 2/3 of Star Wars fans who watch my channel are not watching this show, and I don't think, again, that is going to change anytime soon. Perhaps some will eventually go back to watch it if, and I see many comments saying this, if it turns out that the whole series is good, if episode 8 rolls around and people are saying, yeah, this was really good, then maybe they will go back and give it a try. Furthermore, from the few numbers we have, and we have gotten some viewership numbers from Illuminate, we haven't got them yet from Nielsen, which, as far as we know, kind of puts out the most accurate viewership numbers or ratings for streaming services. They will not come out, I think, until next week. We should finally have the numbers for the first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew next week sometime. Next Thursday, I think. Don't quote me on that one. But we have got some numbers from Illuminate for their top 10 original shows over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks now. And Skeleton Crew has not cracked the top 10 yet, so we don't even know what the numbers are. We only get them for the top 10 shows. We just know that it doesn't beat whatever number 10 was, basically, which is, as I've said before, and it's not a knock on the show. I enjoy the show, but it is kind of sad. It is sad that a brand new Star Wars show cannot crack the top 10 original new shows going on right now. But anyway, we're going to move on to some comments now, but not before once again just saying thank you to everyone who votes, comments, or watches these or any of my videos across both the channels, and a huge thank you to those who support this channel or the other one on Patreon and make my Discord server the best place on the internet to talk some Star Wars. Alright, and now on to the comments, and again, we will start with the top-rated comment from the poll, and this time it came to us from Danko Kamchevsky, who said, "The story of that planet felt a bit rushed, but still Neil stole every moment of it. So I guess it was worth it. Contrived? Yes. Refreshingly naive and innocent? Also yes. So I'm still all for it." And I totally agree. I think the story of the episode itself, the war between the clans here on at Akron, was rushed and just kind of weak. I've seen some people really trying to defend it and say how it makes points about this and that might be true, but it still feels rushed. I saw another comment, and I'll try to post it on the screen here if I can find it, but they said something along the lines how this felt like a weak or kind of rushed episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and that is exactly how I felt. That you had an interesting situation or dynamic possibly here on the planet, and you just never really explored it or gave us a reason to care about what was actually happening or why the war was even being fought between them. And I get it, this is supposed to be a kid's show, and I see that excuse kind of used a lot for watering things down. when I really think sometimes kids can handle more, a lot more than these shows are willing to give them sometimes. I want to be positive and optimistic and say that your average kid can grasp quite a bit. And when I say kid, I'm mainly talking, younger than a teenager here, which is probably about the target audience for the show, probably that 7 to 12-year-old category, right? I think we sometimes don't understand just how much they can and do understand, and that they can recognize a good show and appreciate good writing and appreciate that they don't get treated like children, which was kind of one of the points of the episode, I think, that we were putting children in a war situation. And that is something we have seen before in Star Wars, which was something else a lot of people brought up in the comments. That we have seen child soldiers used by the Jedi, essentially with the Padawans that they brought into the Clone Wars, with Ahsoka being the prime example that we of course see. And so I feel like there was a potential to do a lot more with the episode than just kind of be this character growth episode, and it was great for that, don't get me wrong. But there was a chance to do more, but for whatever reason, the episode was like 28 minutes long when you take out the opening and end credits, and that just wasn't enough time to do something a little more. Another 5 to 10 minutes giving us a little bit more about this planet and these people probably make this a really, really good episode, especially if they do touch on some of the themes that people were pointing out that kind of had the surface of them scratched, shall we say. Alright, and moving on, we now have a comment from Jack Simpson who said, "This show is developing the cast of the main characters really well. A lot of the antics that annoyed me in the first episode feel a lot more endearing in the fourth." And yeah, after the first 2 episodes, I said something along the lines that these characters, the kid characters, though doing a great job acting, I don't have any issue with that, they did feel a bit kinda cliche. They were all filling their role perfectly that we could foresee them being in. And I'm happy to say that there has been development out of them, that they are becoming more and more interesting with each passing episode, and that some of the things or antics that they had early on are sort of paying off now. I saw quite a few people complaining about Fern after the first couple episodes, that of course we have to have the girl boss character, that it isn't a Disney or Star Wars show without one. But here in this episode, and the actress, I don't know her name, apologies, but she put on a great performance. She showed her character's vulnerability. She showed that, yeah, with this desire to be the boss and to have all this responsibility and to be strong, that it's not always that easy. It is not easy to step up and be a leader. You have to be responsible for the people you want to lead. And that is not easy to grapple with, especially when you put those people in danger and potentially could get them killed. I really enjoyed Fern in this episode, as well as Neil. I believe Neil is probably the best of the characters right now, and that might just be because this was really his episode. Fern again had a great moment, but it was really the Neil episode with his little love interest, I suppose we could call her, and how he learns to be brave and then ultimately shows off how brave he is when he takes on SM-33 when he throws a rock at him to save his friends. So yeah, the kids have been good, the character development has been good. I just wish again this episode had a little more substance of its own, that it had explored some of the themes that were easily there to explore, but it just kind of dropped the ball on them. Okay, and now we move on to this comment from Sheev the Senate, who said, "As a 21-year-old college student finishing finals, even if I was intrigued by the show enough to resub to Disney+, I am just not that interested, nor do I want to spend the little free time I have watching it, and that makes me sad to say, honestly, as even The Acolyte I made time to watch every week." And I really think you're touching on an interesting point here, and is a big part of the reason why a lot of people, either Star Wars fans, that 65% we talked about earlier, or the people beyond that, the ratings that we do have, why they're not more impressive. And that's because even though, yes, this is good for what it is, Skeleton Crew is a good show for what it is, and it's just a good show in general, but I don't know that it is a must-watch TV. I don't know that this is something that I would overly recommend to other people. Now, if you ask me, hey, how is that new Star Wars show? Is it any good? I would say, yeah, it's good. You should check it out. But if you came to me and wanted to know what shows I think overall are really good right now and that you should or need, quote unquote, to watch, I don't know that I put Skeleton Crew on that list. And I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just trying to say it's not like this phenomenal show. I think it has been a very pleasant surprise that it is a good Star Wars show. And if you're a Star Wars fan, I would say check it out. And I would say if you're the average person and you've seen a lot of other shows and you're kind of looking for something else to watch, I would recommend it. But it is not something that goes above and beyond and really is something that has to be watched, right? There are a lot of other shows out there right now, or that have recently come out or have been in the past, that I would recommend before this, shall we say. And if you are someone who, just can't afford Disney Plus right now, or just has other things going on because it's the holidays or you're in school, whatever it might be, I wouldn't say that you need to drop everything else and make time for Skeleton Crew. Again, I'm enjoying the show. I think it's a good show, but I don't know that it is in the upper echelon of shows and that it is something that is a must-watch show. All right, and let's do one more comment here, and it comes to us from Manitou Black, who said, I give it a 3 out of 5, right down the middle. There was some real cringe, plus they gave the characters a real simple solution to solve their problem. They've now got coordinates to all the other planets of concern. Simply visit them all and connect the dots. And yeah, I think you're on the right track here. I think the next episode will simply be the next planet on the list, the next at blank planet, whatever we want to call them. And that something will be different with this one, something will be up with this one. It's not going to be in ruin necessarily, or we won't see the people at war like we did here with the clans at war. It'll probably be, and we've seen in the trailer or commercials, we've seen like a planet that has like a palace on it or something. I'm going to assume that's where we're going next. I'm going to assume we're going to begin to understand why these are the jewels of the Old Republic, what the treasure actually was that they were protecting so much, and maybe the next planet still has it. Maybe they all have, as I've suggested before, some sort of material on them that is very valuable, and that planet is still mining or producing something, and that is why they have the luxury palace. I don't know. Probably something along those lines, but I do think we have a pretty simple outline for the rest of the show. They will go to 1 or 2 more of these planets. They will get the coordinates back to Aten, which is where the pirates will finally catch up with them. And we have the big final confrontation there. But anyway, for now, I think that is all I got for you this time. So it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you thought of this episode of Skeleton Crew. What do you think of the series overall so far? Are you still on board or have you jumped ship? Whatever the case may be, leave a comment below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.